So there was some reason that I wanted to talk about data, because it's important, but that's all I've got right now until I flick over to the next one. There we go. So some of our better performing clients are the ones that have decent till systems in place. Whether it's topology, good tills, light speed, whichever, they're all fairly decent. But a lot of clients that we speak to that have been relatively new to the industry, or they see a declining trend in sales, one of the first things to go is the till system. And they'll move over to something cheaper like Square or Stripe or some other users are available. But the problem with things like that is they don't provide you with anything. Sorry to keep picking on you, but you're next to me. Is it topology? Yeah. So Ian uses topology. I don't represent them, or I know I get a referral fee. But Ian's breaks it down hour by hour, day by day, so we've recently been able to look at a 6-month period in kind of one hit on a spreadsheet. We look after Madre, who use good tills, and that again breaks it hour by hour in a nice shiny graph, along with your best selling products. But we also look after a very large hotel that runs off Square, that we can get no data from, no hourly sales, other than looking at the timestamp on the spreadsheet when we run a 12,000 transaction report. Data's key, whether it's for saving on money, saving on labour, saving on, well, absolutely anything. Spending out 50 quid a month on a till system is nothing in comparison. So one of the big things you'll get from the data in your till system is your busy and quiet periods, unless they haven't catched the till off the night before, and it's fucking ball like when we see sales coming through at 4 in the morning. But your till data gives you a shitload of flexibility. The times that you think or feel that you are busy aren't necessarily the times that you are actually busy. I mean, when I was, back in my day when I was a chef, one of the last places I worked, I had Square Blind on a Tuesday afternoon, all we'd sell is fish and chips. It was a nightmare, that was the busiest dish, it was the main thing that was going out, I had to order more in. But when we eventually evaluated the sales data, it wasn't, we'd sold 10 of them, it just happened to all come in one go. If I'd have had the till data there and then at that time, it would have stopped me from ordering shitloads of stuff that wasn't needed. It would have helped me to prepare in advance a little bit more than I was doing. And it would have enabled me to, well, come in a little bit later in the morning knowing that I didn't have to deal with all of the shit that I thought I had. When we, in the business, start basically using hearsay and whatnot, or what we think is going on as our method of, call it gut feeling, when we start focusing solely on the gut feeling that we think we're having about the busiest times or the most popular dishes, that's when it starts turning to shit really, really quick, and that's where having partial data from the till system helps to no end. Because you could be examining your till data and find out that, well, we only had 3 sales between 8:30 and 9, but it was just 3 people at the same time, so what was the point of being open at 8:30? I don't need somebody in at 7:30 to set it up. I need somebody in at 8:45 to turn on the coffee machine, or 8:30. How long does a coffee machine take? I can't remember anymore. When you've got data like that, you remove any anomalies, things like events or private parties that you've had on in the evening, and just look at the actual day trade. When does it start petering off? How many people have you got working in those hours? What was the actual cost of those people working those hours? And is it costing you now more in gas and lighting to keep that fryer on, which it probably is, than it's worth for being open? If you find that you are consistently on a Monday and a Tuesday, or Wednesday and a Thursday, whatever it is, that you're not making enough to make ends meet on those days, shut. There's no harm in it. There's this old kind of mentality and hospitality that you've got to be open 7 days a week. There are some instances where people have to, if you're in a shared office building, or or if you're running something like Freight Island, you've got to be open 7 days. And there's not a lot you can do about it. I'm really sorry, but I'm going to keep drinking it and it's going to keep happening. But where you've got the option to close earlier or close for different days, there's no shame in it. It's your business and treat it as you please. But what you've got to do is be consistent in your days and your opening hours. If you tell people you're going to change them, or if you're going to change them, you've got to tell people. Facebook, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever it is you're using, wherever your platform is, talk to people about it. If you even want to tell them why you're doing it, then tell them why you're doing it. There is no shame in saying I'm closing earlier because it's too quiet at 6 o'clock. What you don't want to do is start shutting before your stated closing time. It's probably one of the worst mistakes I made, but you know, when I was a chef, it wasn't my business, so I didn't care that much. We look at it and go, well, we're meant to close at 9, but it's dead at 8 o'clock. Let's give it 10 more minutes. Kitchen will be scrub clean and we'll be out the door by 8:30. The next morning, we get a shit email from head office saying party at 10 turned up and nobody was there. Provided that your opening hours are exactly what you're saying they are, whether that's different on different days, different in different seasons, it doesn't matter, provided that people are aware about what you're doing. This one for me, I speak to a lot of people about staggering shifts and a lot of them think they don't like it. I mean, it's something that I always practiced as a chef was having staggered shifts. The one thing I was never fond of was split shifts. I know they work in a lot of venues, but for me personally, it was never very pleasant. When you've got 3 hours in the middle of your fucking day after you've started at 7 in the morning. But staggering shifts is a brilliant one, especially if you're in a venue with multiple people all starting at the same time, because I was always very guilty of when those people came in, going and having a natter for 15 minutes after they clocked in, and before anything was done. Having a staggered shift removes that kind of pre-work catch-up when they're already started. It's got to be done in balance though, because a lot of people, particularly if you've got older members of staff, they are more than likely coming to work partly for a social aspect. So it's got to be a bit of a tie between treating people properly and making sure that people are starting work when they should be starting work. Another big error that we kind of spot as we move along is having the wrong people in at the wrong times. A lot of places will have somebody relatively good on first thing in the morning to get everything opened up, along with somebody who is less experienced, because they want to keep their more experienced people for slightly later on in the day when lunch kicks in and it's busier. And as with anybody running a business, you kind of get stuck in this rut of, well, that's how it's got to be because I don't have anyone better to work first thing in the morning. But we're the first people to jump in when somebody's off or when it needs opening or whether there's nobody there. But we're also the last people to go, you know what I'll do? I'll bring in so-and-so. They're not that good on the open, but you know what, they need to be. Instead of sacrificing 2 of my good people to be in first thing in the morning, you know what, I'm going to take an early shift, I'll leave earlier, I'm going to come in, I'm going to bring in somebody less experienced, I'm going to walk them through doing it exactly the way I want to do it. Forever and a day ago, I used to work at McDonald's and that was the way you were taught. They didn't necessarily put extra people on. When I learned to do the opens, I was in with an experienced manager, and that is the only shift I did for about 3 or 4 weeks was an open and nothing else, until a point came where I was the manager in the open. And it's one of the things that McDonald's does incredibly well that not everywhere else does, and it isn't because of vast amount of resources, because they pushed their labour down to 16-17% when I was there. You're nodding along because you've been there and done that. McDonald's aren't throwing vast amounts of money behind the training of minimum wage staff, but they are doing it in a way where it doesn't cost them any extra by putting them on with somebody experienced, i.e. yourselves in most cases, to help them get prepared. I'm a big lover of cross-training. It's something I always practiced in every kitchen I was in. People would rotate around the kitchen, particularly on quieter days where I was less likely to lose my rag, and it's something that I practice now even in accountancy. Don't get me wrong, I'm not putting the admin doing payroll before anybody has a panic, but it is something we roll around. The people who don't have experience processing invoices will spend several months having to learn how to do that before they move on to the next bit and the next bit and the next bit. My job is really fucking monotonous, by the way, when it comes to stuff like that. But you'll find that the minute that you do start cross-training and utilising your time to cross-train, it's one less fire to put out, because the next time somebody rings in for the open because they can't make it, it's not necessarily you that has to cover it. Somebody else can come in half an hour earlier and leave half an hour earlier, and you can cover that bit at 4 o'clock, which, me personally, I've spent so much of my time getting out of bed, pre-children, at 10 o'clock in the morning to go in to do my 12 o'clock shift, and the thought of having to go and open up at 7 o'clock in the morning, I'd rather die. What was this one for? Oh, this one was shift staggering, just an example of. Oh, thank you. I didn't do this one, he's got this for me. This is part of a lovely, lovely spreadsheet that Louise has got everybody's email address, and we'll send it over and explain it later. You know what? Very near the end. Time well.
Got like another 15 minutes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought it'd been like a lot quicker than that. No. Oh, I don't mind. There we go. So a couple of changes coming in during this year. This is something that I've been asked endlessly to scenario plan for. Tip legislation, it's going to affect a lot of restaurants, more so the larger ones that operate a service charge. So most of us, if you, unless you're Peter Express, you won't have been deducting things out of staff tips anyway. But sorry, I'll caveat what I'm saying by there is currently a consultation in place that doesn't close until the 24th of February, after which the new law will be decided. But these are the most likely things that are going to impact tip legislation post-April, most likely coming into force on the 1st of July 24. Bless you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Do you need another one? Don't hold it in. So, no deductions out of tips, apart from the necessary employment taxes, whether that's payroll, pay, pensions, depending on how it's set up, and employers NI. Yeah, that's fine. So, what some of our larger restaurants are doing at the moment is they accumulate service charge, they pay it out on top of everybody's hourly rate or a set wage each and every month, and once a quarter they breeze through it and might pay out 15, 20k in one hit across the board to every employee. Places that are operating like that are going to get a bit of a kick in the teeth, because we are going to have to start shelling out all tronc by the end of the following month. I've got the English way of saying it. Example, any tronc you take out, any tronc you accrue in May will have to be paid out by 30th of June. That's the one. We have a chunk of places already doing that, but it's going to have a massive impact, more so in the south and Manchester than around here, where a lot of people are paying £15, £16 an hour inclusive of tronc, because what they're going to find then is they don't have a pot. So a lot of people are accumulating it for quieter times. A couple of our big venues might take 30, 40 grand worth of tronc a month, right up until kind of October, November, when it drops off the face of a cliff, and that tronc pot is then used to top off everybody's hourly wage. That's going to disappear. As a side note, something I've not included in here, what one of our clients is looking at, which is legal but not necessarily moral. They are looking at making service charge completely mandatory for everyone, so that it is subject to VAT, court tax, employers' NI and employers' pension. Essentially, they're looking at using service charge to boost their own revenue to be able to afford the increases coming in April in staff wages. Me personally, I'm not a big fan, as it's going to have several other detrimental effects, including customers walking away when the word optional is no longer on the menu for service charges. What we found in places that do operate service charge optionally, it's about 90% of customers that still pay it. So, but the minute you remove that word optional, you're going to find that fall dramatically and people refusing to come in. Another big one is you're going to have a tipping policy if you don't already. I did a good Google, if I'm honest. I mean, what I should be saying to the camera is speak to a solicitor to write it up for you or a HR person, but everyone's going to have some kind of tipping policy in place that shows how tips are distributed. And on top of that, any member of your staff is going to be able to see the distribution schedule, how it's been divvied out and who it's gone to, and what percentage. Like a lot of places who operate tips and trunk will operate it on a point system. This person gets 1.5 trunk, this person gets 0.75. And I understand that you all know how numbers and points work. But you're going to have to distribute that to any and all staff that are after it when they need it. From what I can read of the proposed changes is that there will be a limit to the number of times people can ask within a given period, and if you're distributing it to one, you may as well post it to everybody each and every month. So outside of tips, sorry. No comment. My honest answer on that one is cash tips that come through, staff are responsible for divvying out and declaring